Ever feel like one bad business deal could like completely ruin you?
Oh, absolutely.
Today's deep dive is about a company that basically stared into that abyss and somehow, against the odds, managed to climb back out.
Yeah.
We're talking about Varun Media Private Limited.
Okay.
And their story, let me tell you, it's a wild ride through the world of Indian insolvency law. I mean, this is...
It's a maze. It really is.
Yeah.
It's so intricate. And frankly, it's unforgiving.
Yeah.
This process is we've got court documents detailing everything.
Oh, wow.
The loan, missed payments, even like the frantic attempts to avoid complete collapse.
It's like edge of your seat kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
So set the scene for us. Who are the players, the key players in this corporate drama?
Okay. So on one side, we've got Naman Infradevelopers. They're essentially the bank in this scenario.
Okay.
They extended a loan to Varun Media for a cool INR 1,008,000.
That's a lot of rupees.
That's not exactly pocket change.
No.
But here's the catch. A 3-month repayment term with an 18% interest rate.
Oh, that's brutal.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah. That is a tight leash, even for like the most seasoned business.
Yeah.
So what went wrong? Did Varun Media just totally miscalculate, or was there something else, something more at play here?
Well, according to the documents, Naman Infradevelopers sends not 1, not 2, but 3 reminders to Varun Media about this, like looming deadline.
Oh, no.
And the response? Crickets.
Oh, no. That's not good.
Like radio silence.
Oof. That's never a good sign. So what'd they do? Naman Infradevelopers, they can't just write off like over 1 crore rupees, can they?
Absolutely not. And remember that 18% interest rate?
Oh, yeah?
By May of 2022, the debt had ballooned to over INR 1.2 crore.
Holy moly.
So they took the first legal step, issuing a formal notice to Varun Media, which is essentially a shot across the bow saying, we're serious about getting our money back.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I'm guessing Varun Media had some reason, however flimsy it might have been, for ghosting their lender.
Yeah.
So what was their side? What was their side of the story?
They did attempt a defense citing the COVID-19 pandemic's impact on their business.
Right.
And to be fair, it did wreak havoc on countless companies.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But claiming hardship doesn't just magically erase a debt, does it? Especially one that's still racking up all that interest.
Right.
So what happened? What Naman Infradevelopers do next?
They went for, I would say, kind of the nuclear option.
Oh, boy.
They initiated something called the Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process,
Okay.
or CRP, against Varun Media.
CRP.
And this is not something you just jump into lightly.
You know.
In India, the CRP process, it's usually triggered when a debt crosses a certain threshold,
Okay.
which in this case, it clearly did.
Okay. So break it down for me a little bit. What exactly does CRP mean in real-world terms?
Sure.
Because it sounds like the moment a company might be staring down the barrel of,
Dissolution.
yeah.
Yeah, it's designed to provide a structured framework for resolving these insolvency situations. So it's kind of like a last resort to try and salvage something from a failing business before having to resort to liquidation.
Got it. So it's like a last-ditch effort to avoid complete financial meltdown.
Yeah.
Who oversees this whole process?
So that would be the National Company Law Tribunal, or the NCLT.
Okay.
Think of them as the referees in this very, very high-stakes game.
Right. Okay.
They have the power to admit the insolvency petition, which they did in this case.
Okay.
And once that happened, a moratorium was declared on Varun Media.
Oh, a moratorium. That sounds serious. What exactly does that entail? For a company like Varun Media, what are the immediate consequences of that?
A moratorium is a very powerful tool in these insolvency proceedings. It's meant to provide a struggling company a sort of protective bubble.
Okay.
It means lawsuits are put on hold.
Okay.
Asset transfers are frozen.
Oh, wow.
Even creditors are temporarily barred from pursuing debts.
Wow, that's a huge intervention.
It is.
It sounds like it gives a company that's really on the brink a fighting chance to kind of regroup.
Right. But I bet it's not without its downsides.
Right.
What's the catch?
Yeah, there are definitely some downsides.
Yeah.
It's definitely not just a free pass.
Right.
It buys you some time. But, it comes with a lot of scrutiny.
Right.
All of a sudden, the company's finances are laid bare. Creditors are like breathing down their neck. And there's a clock ticking to come up with a viable plan. Like, how are we going to rescue this thing?
Right. So high stakes, high pressure.
Got it. So with Varun Media essentially in this kind of limbo, what happens next? Who steps in to try to untangle this whole mess?
So this is where the resolution professional, or RP, enters the picture.
Okay.
In Varun Media's case, the court appointed a Mr. Mukesh Chand Jain to this very critical role.
Okay. So if the NCLT is kind of like the referee, is the RP like the mediator?
That's a good way to put it.
Trying to find a solution that everybody can kind of...
Yeah, they have a lot of responsibilities. Collecting claims against the company, determining their true financial position.
Okay.
And I think maybe most importantly, forming a committee of creditors, or COSI.
Okay, the COSI. So the people who actually lent the money.
Yes.
And want to see it again.
Correct.
I'm guessing that Naman Infradevelopers had a pretty prominent seat at that table.
An understatement.
Yeah.
Because they were the sole lender to Varun Media. They held 100% of the voting power within the COSI.
Wow.
Their decision was going to be the ultimate decision maker in the fate of this company.
So they really had all the cards.
They did.
Wow. So what did the COSI, or really Naman Infradevelopers, what did they decide to do? Did they see any hope for Varun Media? Or was this headed straight for liquidation?
I mean, liquidation was definitely on the table.
Right.
But before making that call, the RP, Mr. Jain, he followed a pretty standard procedure in these cases. He issued what's called a call for expressions of interest.
Okay.
For AOS.
Expressions of interest. So essentially just sending out like a beacon in the corporate world.
Yes.
Saying like, can anyone save this company?
Exactly. And you never know who might respond to a call like that.
Right.
In Varun Media's case, they actually received 3 separate EOIs. Oh, wow.
From entities that were interested in potentially, like, rescuing the company.
3 potential saviors. That's a surprise. Considering, I
Yeah.
mean, this company's not in a good place.
It's not looking great.
Yeah. But expressions of interest are one thing. Actually putting forward a concrete plan,
Right.
that's a whole other story.
Totally different.
So did any of these interested parties actually step up to the plate?
2 of them did.
Okay.
We had Kundan Care Products, Ltd.
Okay.
And then our mystery man from earlier, Mr. Bitan Roy.
Yes.
Both of them submitted formal resolution plans to the COSI, outlining their proposals for how they would turn Varun Media around.
A head-to-head competition
Right.
to rescue a company on the brink. This is getting good.
It's getting juicy.
It is getting juicy. So what did these plans look like? Give us the inside scoop. So we've got these 2 competing plans, right?
Right.
Each one vying to save Varun Media from, going under.
Yeah.
What were the key differences? Did one offer a significantly better deal? Like, what were we looking at here? Yeah, so unfortunately, the court documents that we have, they don't actually go into detail about Kundan Care Products' proposal.
Oh, okay.
But we do know that the COSI actually brought in a consultant to really scrutinize both of the plans.
Smart.
Which I think is a smart move because you really want to be able to cut through all the jargon and figure out, like, is this actually a viable plan?
Absolutely. So it's not just about picking the shiniest object.
Exactly.
They actually wanted to make sure this was going to work.
Yeah.
What was it about Mr. Bitan Roy's proposal that won them over?
So after the consultant's review, both of the applicants actually submitted revised plans, and ultimately it was Mr. Roy's proposal that got that crucial 100% approval from Naman.
Wow.
And this wasn't just some kind of vague promise of future profits.
Right.
His plan actually laid out like a very clear path to paying back everyone that Varun Media owed money to, and relatively quickly too.
Wait, hold on. Everyone.
Yeah,
You mean not just Naman Infradevelopers, but even like the little guys?
that's right.
The smaller players that kind of got caught in the crossfire.
It aimed to settle debts with both what's called the financial creditor, which is Naman, and the operational creditors, which often kind of get,
They get left out.
they get left out.
Wow, that's impressive. And I would imagine that that's probably pretty rare in these cases.
It's pretty rare, yeah.
Wow. So how much are we talking about here? What are the figures?
Okay, so in total, the plan proposed a payout of almost INR 2 crore,
Get out.
almost double the original loan amount.
Wow.
Naman Infradevelopers would recoup 100% of their dues within 180 days of the NCLT's approval. Even more impressively, the plan ensured that the operational creditors received their full payment within a shorter time frame, just 120 days.
Wow. So, I mean, talk about a turnaround. Naman Infradevelopers must have been like
Over the moon.
over the moon.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, like, from just a purely business standpoint, why would Bitan Roy take on a company that is so clearly like drowning in debt? What's in it for him?
That is the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that these insolvency resolutions, they aren't just about settling scores.
Right.
They often present these really unique opportunities for, savvy investors to acquire potentially very valuable assets at a,
Bargain price.
A bargain price.
Wow.
So he probably saw something, some kind of hidden potential in Varun Media, like, who knows, maybe a diamond in the rough, right?
High risk, high reward. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the NCLT gave it the green light, but were there any strings attached? Like, I can't imagine they just, like, handed over the reins with zero oversight.
You're right. The NCLT, they approved the plan, but they also appointed something called a monitoring committee to keep an eye on things for the next 6 months.
Okay.
Just to ensure that the transition went smoothly, which is smart.
Yeah.
This committee included representatives from Bitan Roy's team, the resolution professional, and of course, Naman Infradevelopers. So checks them out.
Okay, makes sense. Bitan Roy couldn't just, like, drag his feet, right? They gave him a deadline to kind of get everything back on track.
Oh, absolutely. They gave him 1 year to comply with all the legal and regulatory requirements, all the necessary government approvals, the whole 9 yards. And it wasn't an empty threat either.
Right.
Remember that performance bank guarantee and that EMD amount?
Yeah, the 50 lakh and the 5 lakh that he put on the line.
Exactly. Failure to meet that deadline meant, like...
It's gone.
It's gone. Big incentive to stay on track.
Talk about pressure. So after all the twists and turns, the near-death experience, did Varun Media actually pull through? Did this plan actually work?
You know, the court documents actually tell a pretty, like, promising story.
Okay.
The RP was discharged, Bitan Roy was given all the official records, and most importantly, that moratorium lifted.
Yeah.
So as of today, it seems like Varun Media, under new ownership, of course, got that second chance.
What a roller coaster. They went from, like, the brunt of collapse to basically a fresh start.
It's amazing.
I mean, I imagine Bitan Roy has his work cut out for him. This deep dive, it's just such a fascinating glimpse into one company's, brush with insolvency.
Right.
But I can't help but wonder how many other business save stories are out there, just hidden within, all the complexities of corporate law.
Oh, I'm sure there are countless.
Right.
Every insolvency case is going to be unique. It's going to have its own challenges, its own set of players. And if it's lucky,
that comebacks.
A comeback story.
Well, that is something to think about. So the next time that you hear about a company facing what seem like, insurmountable odds, remember, it might not be the end of their story. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and be sure to tune in next time when we'll be unpacking another, interesting case. Until then, keep those thinking caps on.